Okay, all right, so if we're back in the room, I'm gonna now that we've kind of gone through the first level of the process, right? And we consciously decided to do it by topic. However, you can apply this to your business. So you can do it at one level for your business, or you could assume, for example, that vitality is my HR department, real estate is maybe my facilities, this is my HR department, my innovation department, my finance department. So when you go to your company, you can apply the same process, which instead of dictating to your company and your employees what they should do, you're kind of getting them to create the added value for you. And generally speaking, as a leader, you should listen to your team, you should listen to your company. And that is the beauty, is when you become a very egoless leader, and you become conscious about the value that everyone in your business brings to you, or in the various different parts of the business, that's when you can kind of apply this process. This process is a process that I've used for a long time, and it's basically what you can do from here is, now that we have these main points, you can essentially say, you can decide which one of those is your big hairy ass goal. This is my preference. It's usually big hairy audacious goal, but I prefer ass goal. However, I've changed some of this language recently for my own methodology, but generally, you know, it's called the steering group process. I call it getting shit done as well. And I've changed the BHAG to actually be my passion. And I define passion as purpose plus mission. So when I look at these boards, I can definitely see that they all fit into my passion, purpose, and my mission. And if I have my purpose and my mission, that gives me my passion. Okay, so when I've defined what my BHAG is, which is essentially my passion for the next 3 months, the next 6 months, the next 5 years, 10 years, 25 years, in theory, you should have this for your 10-year plan, your 25-year plan. But I find generally that things evolve so quickly that I couldn't tell you what my 10-year plan is. I couldn't tell you what my 10-year passion is. I can tell you what my 10-year purpose and mission is, but I can't tell you what I'm going to achieve or create in 10 or 25 years. Some people can, some people can't. So you can adapt this model how you prefer as an individual. But for me, I like to look at this every 3 months. I like to look at this every 6 months. I go more with the flow, right? So it's like, what do I want to achieve in the next 6 months? Okay, then that gets me to a certain level. Then I reassess, what am I going to do for the next 6 months? And then I'm going to get to that level. Obviously, I have a vision of an end goal at some point. And you know, you could have this applied as like your own personal. So you can apply this system in multitude of levels, right? I can apply this to me as a person and make sure it's all congruent. I can apply it to my businesses. I can apply it to my teams, my departments, and then everyone is essentially, it helps to create alignment, right? It helps me to create alignment with myself. It helps me create alignment with my companies, and it helps my companies create alignment with their teams. So this is a great form of a process to adopt when you're scaling your business, because once you've done this process, all you generally need to do is meet once a week and go, which one of these is most on fire? The one most on fire is my focus for the next week, because I want to get them all to green ticks, and I want to see it all green. And I want to make it audacious, because I want to push myself, I want to stretch myself. So you always want to have the highest possible potential that you can achieve in 6 months, 12 months, a year, 5 years, whatever that time frame you're giving yourself for this purpose, right? And so you want it to be audacious. You want it to be like, you want to finish the period that you're running this in a fuck yeah moment, right? And how do I know I had a fuck yeah moment? Because I hit the main purpose, I achieved my number of objectives, and my KPIs are all green, right? And I know the health of my journey based on my measurables, on my KPIs. my measurables and my KPIs tell me if I'm achieving my objectives. My objectives, when I hit them, means I've hit my BHAG. And you just simplify it like this, right? So for example, if I want to make my business a $10 million business in 6 months, right? I need my sales to knock it out of the park. I need to hire the right team. I need to implement the processes. I need to have raving fans. Maybe my objectives. How do I know that? My bank balance has gone up. I've hit my revenue targets and my number of raving fans has gone through the roof. Is the kind of general principle. I changed the names for my process, which is this instead of my BHAG. Well, I like the BHAG, so I'll keep the BHAG, but my BHAG means my passion. How do I get my passion? Is knowing my purpose and my mission. Instead of my objectives, I now call them my focus. Because I know where energy flows, focus goes. So if I then say my KPIs are my energy, right? Because my bank balance is my energy, my sales is my energy, my raving fans is my energy is going to help me deliver my focus, which is going to help me achieve my passion, my purpose, my mission, whichever one you prefer to call it. For me, it's my passion because I know that my purpose and my mission sits here. So if I get my energy working, it helps me achieve my focus because where focus goes, energy flows, you know, and it's kind of a bit of yin yang between the two, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And if I have my energy at peak and my focus at peak, I'm going to hit my BHAG. I'm going to hit my purpose. I'm going to hit my passion. I'm going to make it a reality. So I wanted to kind of explain this because the methodology we did is basically how then, and I hope maybe now you can start to see that if I look at any of these boards, we can then do a process where we can work out what is our BHAG in AI? What are the main objectives we need to hit in AI to achieve it? Which ones of these or here are going to be our KPIs? Or do we create new KPIs, which tells us if we're having a good day or not so good day in that journey, right? Because what you want to be doing is you want to be thinking, 6 months from now, I want to be driving for my summer holidays. I always say Christmas because usually I do it in summer. I'm driving for my summer holidays, right? And I'm about to go and pick up my kids or whatever and go on holiday. And I look at this board and I'm like, we nailed those KPIs. We achieved the majority of those objectives. And we pretty much nailed that BHAG, or we did nail that BHAG. Fuck yeah, I can go and have a 2-week holiday and just relax, right? Because I've achieved it, right? So this is the kind of process I've applied to businesses and they've succeeded. And when I haven't applied it to the businesses, they've failed. And they failed very much because people didn't buy into the process, probably it was a wrong alignment between people, the company and the process, right? So it's very important to kind of have that in mind. When I've done a few boards, I think it was Talon asked me, how can, if I'm serving you like this, how can you serve me? And so the way I'd like everyone to serve me is to be able to give me some feedback later on or over the next few days, because this essentially is what I have adopted to call my max system. And so in that, with your focus, you need to have SMART. And I don't know if everyone knows what SMART means. It's a business methodology, which is, specific, measurable, actionable, relatable, timely. And this is very much how you apply your KPIs. Yes, you want your KPI to be smart, measurable, attainable. So you want it to be forceful and push you to the level, but you don't want it to be unrealistic, because as soon as you get it unrealistic, everyone thinks that the mission has failed. There's no purpose to it, and you need people to relate to it, and it needs to be timely. So if I have a team who's focused on raving fans as their main objective, like my sales team, having in there my valuation KPI is not going to resonate with them. right? But having on there, for example, number of customers shouting, number of fans shouting about me publicly, right? That's going to get them motivated. They're going to wake up and they're going to look at that number and go, yes, we're crushing it. Or, hey guys, we're not quite crushing it yet. What can we do? Let's think out the box, right? So all of these things, it's not meant to bog the business down. It's not meant to slow you down. It's meant to allow you, especially as an owner, to bring in operators, whether it's in one business, in the different areas that they specifically take. So you not have to be involved in everything. But I can look at this every day, every week, and I know how my team's performing. I know when I need to step in, if I do or not. I can then, if I have teams with each one of these, I can then call in my sales manager and say, you had a pretty leak last week, huh? What are you doing about it? You know, how are we going to fix this? You know, or even better, you can say, you guys knocked out the freaking park last week. What the f happened there? That's amazing. How are we going to reward the team? How are we going to incentivize the team? So, and it also then allows those teams to be accountable, responsible on their own. You're not overstepping the mark. You're not getting stuck in. And then if I have, and then when you become an investor, so you move from operator to owner, and when you move from owner to the next level, it's just the same process, but instead of having teams or departments, I now have companies, and I can run multiple of these. So if you ever have the point where you run 3 companies and you're like, I really want to start a 4th company, a 5th company, a 6th company, but how the hell am I going to manage that, right? This is possibly a process that you can apply. And you can just have, this is then becomes the process you apply to your board in that one company, the next company, etc., etc. And then they then pass it down. And so you have this dissemination of information all the way down and processes, allowing everyone to have accountability, responsibility, which then allows them to individually thrive, and be able to just, and essentially this really helps you scale. And then I came up with this point, which is so exponential. So exponential for me equals passion times focus plus energy. And so, for me, this board means that I can achieve exponential growth. And this can be either in finance, in business, in my own life, in my fitness goals, whatever it is, right? And you can apply the same methodology, because it might be, I want to lose 10 kilos this year. What do I need to do? Nutrition, exercise, whatever, HIIT, etc. Then I can say here, was I up and down on my calories, my weight, how's that moving? All of those different things. So, and then obviously I spoke about that. And then for me, conscious entrepreneurship is actually when I add an extra level, which is having faith. If I have faith in the process, in the impact, in the mission, in the purpose, then I multiply even further the passion and the focus and the energy, which then only further drives exponential in everything. And I mean exponential in everything because not only am I seeing my business thrive, I'm seeing myself thrive, I'm seeing everyone else around me thrive, and it's just this amazing exponential of everything that happens. So with the KPIs, I came up with this terminology, which is I call high water. So actually, I'm probably going to call them high water markers. And the reason being is because no one likes low water, because it's usually smelly, green, slimy, slippery, right? But we like high water because it's usually quite up, and so that's my sailing analogy. But it actually comes from something different, which is y plus who equals my how. So I don't need to no longer think about how I do stuff. All I need to think about is why am I doing it and who's doing it with me. Because when we have the why, the purpose and the mission, and we have the team, the people, the collaborators, the how is just going to happen. And then the beauty of that is when you take the two letters, the letters in common, it's actually HW, which is high water, and that's how I got to my high water measurable. The other thing that this does is, for me, it fills my CICCTI, which is a mouthful. But it actually is very simple. And it also comes back to the same analogies that the armies and military services use, right? Which is clear intention, clear communication, trust your gut, right? And so as long as you have your clear intention, which this kind of sets out, this kind of process, it can kind of set out what my clear intention is. I can now articulately, clearly communicate it, and I now have my set of principles, values, etc. And if it doesn't fall in there, then I got to trust my gut. And then that helps me come back to like Sigita's yes, no decision maker window, which is it's either a yes or a no, and then the rest is just noise. And so if you listen to the facts, you listen to your gut, you listen to your communication, you listen to your intentions, then that makes it super easy whether it's a yes or a no. And if you're in the maybes, then you're lost and you need to reassess, bring yourself back. And again, I think this also applies very much about being in the head versus the mind. You know, if you're like, no, I'm not sure this, that, the other could happen, etc. Hang on a minute, I'm in my head, pull myself back out, trust my gut, what's my gut saying, listen to what I've got to say. And if you have to take the time to do that, that's also fine. And then, you know, when it comes to the who, I have this principle that I used to use, which is, you know, you take your income statement and you turn it on its side. So everyone knows income statement, you have your sales, costs, overheads, profit, right? If you turn it on the side, you then have sales, operational costs or costs of goods, marketing, insurance, HR, finance, etc., whatever is in your P&L. And then what I want to do is I want to identify if I have someone here, 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 or if I'm in multiple seats, if I'm in all of these seats, I can't scale my business. I can't grow my business. So then that quickly identifies to me, actually, I'm doing sales and I'm doing marketing. I can either do sales or marketing. So either I hire a sales manager or a marketing manager, and then I can put them in there. You can then also bring in their goals, which essentially is from their individual boards. And now you have a 6-month plan for your team, which is person who's responsible and accountable and what they're accountable for delivering for the next period of time. I went obviously a little bit further, which is where I said that I actually had, this bit was locked and it unlocked this afternoon upstairs, which is I can do the same for my personal, because my personal is my balance sheet. Because if I'm not in a good place, I'm not in my peak performance, nothing else is going to work. So I need to ground myself to my own personal balance sheet, and then I need to think about, you know, I probably need to borrow Ronald a bit at some point. But I was thinking, you know, what's in my balance sheet? Well, it's my movement, my mind, my flow, my energy, my nutrition, my fitness, my learning, my personal growth, my personal development. Whatever is in your balance sheet, you can then decide who is your guru go-to, right? Who's your inspiration? What is your goals you're trying to achieve there? And then on that, you can then also measure yourself in terms of your own performance, which obviously has a knock-on effect up here and back down. And then obviously we all know that income statements, balance sheet equals cash flow, which is essentially my wealth. And my wealth, as we've all defined multiple times between ourselves together, is my health, my wealth, and my relationships. So who do I want to have relationships with? Who do I want to do my health with? Who's responsible for my wealth, right? If you have a bank manager, he might be the person, or personal finance advisor, that's who's responsible for your wealth. What is the goal you wanted them to achieve? I want to have infinite amount of pension, right? So then you can measure them and measure whether you and them are working together well. And that's kind of the concept I came up with there. And then, you know, you guys were all talking about magic. And I kind of, which is meaningful action with grace, integrity, and curiosity. And then here we actually came up with the other day, and listening makes magical. And then I've been playing with this, which is bliss, which is beautiful, life is so sure, or super sure. And then I came up with, well, actually this is magical bliss. So essentially, this is kind of certainly going to be my guiding principle going forwards, which is to always do a meaningful action with grace, integrity, and curiosity, whilst also listening, which is only going to result in me having a beautiful life for sure. And that's kind of where I got to with that.
1, 2, 3.
You are us! That was amazing.
And when I finished it, this is essentially what I believe is my MAX system. And that's also why MAX stands for mastering, which is your learning, actualization, which is your implementation, and then you're going to see the exponential results from it. And when I finished it, I will gift it to you all, and I'd love you all to try it and to give me your feedback. And I hope to finish it this month. So now, yes, I'm happy to answer any questions and take any suggestions everyone has.
Ooh.
You got one? I missed what KPIs stand for.
Key performance indicators.
Okay.
So it's usually a business term, especially a financial term. And I think Ronald will probably be able to explain KPIs much better than me.
Oh, I like your.
You like my
Better.
So the best way to work out KPI is it should be a number or a ratio, like percentage or 1 out of 2, whatever that defines it, because each one needs different ways of viewing it. Will tell me if my business is performing, doing well, but you can also apply it to yourself.
Can you give an example?
For a business?
Or for personal, whatever.
So for example, if you're trying to save money,
Yes.
right? So you might set yourself a KPI of every month I want to save $1,000 a month, right? You can measure yourself in week 2 and you're like, oh, I'm only at $400 when I need to be, I've got 2 weeks to hit that $1,000 mark. So now I know if I'm doing well or not, right? So now I can make the change, the shift that I need to make sure I hit that goal, or accept that I'm not going to hit the goal, right? But generally speaking, the best way is to, what else can I do? Well, actually, I don't need my iPad. I'm going to sell that, and then there you go. Now I'm $200 gone into my pocket. I'm now at 600 out of 1,000, right? And so it helps you to be able to analyze quickly, precisely. A KPI also, people spend hours and days calculating it. It should never be. It should always be simple. Keep it simple, keep it stupid. Kind of through.
I see. Thank you.
I have a question to the personal balance sheet.
Yes.
And I was wondering, because I did not see it, I could not read it, what is on the left side, what is on the right side?
So I'm adopting Ronald's on this because I like it. I think
You're adopting what?
Ronald's balance sheet.
Okay. So it's stuff and...
Stuff, liabilities, equity. So basically, shit I own, shit I owe,
Yeah.
and how much have I got left?
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah,
And how...
because if I owe too much, I can sell shit
Yeah.
to pay that back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can kind of, it's essentially very much like if you imagine you're baking a cake and you got the scales, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I've got too much flour, I take the flour off. I need more flour, I put it on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if I have too much debt, I sell stuff to
Mhm.
balance it back out.
So what does that, like stuff and liabilities, does that apply to really tangible things, or is that like something I'm responsible for in the organization, or what does it apply to? I have a...
You can apply it to both.
Ah, right. Okay.
Because I say it's my, like, obviously in business you have all,
Uh-huh.
right? In personal life I have all,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
But
Yeah.
what I'm saying is there is this merger when you're an entrepreneur between personal and business,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so for my business to be performing, I need to make sure my personal balance sheet
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
at peak.
Now, how does that translate to the right side, to the
Here?
Yeah, to that.
Yeah. So because I've applied this in my personal side,
Uh-huh.
right? So my personal balance sheet is going to be strong when I've got in my case, my movement, my mind, my flow, my energy, my nutrition, my fitness
Good.
at peak,
I see.
right? And so for here, you know, what I would then fill in here is who is my inspiration,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
So, you know, it might be Joe Dispenza, Tony
Yeah.
Robbins,
Yeah.
Jay Shetty.
Yeah.
Those are the people who I take
Awesome.
inspiration. And my goal is, you know, maybe in my mind is to become mind like a monk like Jay Shetty,
Yeah.
right?
Good.
So then that is how I drive my performance there.
Yeah.
That's how I increase the performance on my personal balance sheet,
Yeah.
which then is going to have a result on my
Yeah.
business, my personal wealth,
Yeah.
and my wealth in terms of my cash flow, my health, my vitality, and everything. And I also realized there's something else I forgot to tell you,
So,
which is my yes mindset.
yes.
So
Yes.
in here, there is no is not real, no plus no equals yes. Therefore, there is only a complicated yes, not a no.
Exactly.
Say the last sentence again. Only.
Only a complicated yes, not a no.
No is only a complicated yes.
Yes, yes.
Can you give an example?
An example?
Yes, please.
Do you believe anything is possible?
Yes.
There you go. What else do you need to know?
One of our great leaders, Nelson Mandela, said, "Nothing is impossible until it's done."
Can I add something? Just a thought about that, about the no. Sometimes in life, it's from my perspective
impossible.
important to say no when we want to.
Set your boundaries.
Yeah.
That's different.
Okay.
I agree with you, and I should probably take a note on that. What this is trying to do, this is actually more from the lost entrepreneur perspective.
Okay.
Because as an entrepreneur, all I hear is that's not going to work. It's going to fail. You're not going to succeed. You're not going to hit your numbers,
Agreed.
right? So
Fully
now
agree.
I have to go, yes, I
Yeah.
can do this. You know, pull myself back. What is the purpose? What is the reason I'm doing this?
Yeah.
Right? As I saw at the Business Mastery, which for me was perfect. I saw a problem. I was fed up of seeing it, so I created this solution.
Yeah.
Right? And then as an entrepreneur, I need to bring myself back to that because everyone's like, yeah, your idea's shit. It's never going to work.
Yeah.
You're never going to make the money.
Yeah.
You're never going to launch.
Yeah.
And that's where I was coming from. This yes mindset
Good.
is everyone's like, no.
Good.
Hang on, yes,
Yeah.
because I want
Good.
to make it happen. I will make it happen.
Yeah.
I need to make it happen.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't happen now, it's going to happen. It's just a question
Yeah.
of time.
I just want to make one example where I think a no, just to have a clear
Yes.
differentiation between that. No? If I discuss a business idea with someone and that business idea is maybe harmful for the environment, is harmful for other people, is harmful for something that is not aligned with my values, then I'm standing up and say a clear no. That would be a situation where I say, of course it's possible to do it, but for me it's a no. It's a no, a clear no. I don't do that, right? And
Yes.
but it's a different setup. It's a different.
Could I make a
perspective.
slight adjustment to that?
Yeah.
I think it'd be better to just say it's not for me. Because
I can see a situation where for me it's like when people get injured, it's not even not for me. It's a
understand
no
that.
for everybody. It's a no go.
I understand
Right,
that,
so-
but we don't have the authority to judge or to state to other people not to do something.
That's true. But for me, then it would be a clear statement. Maybe I should say it's a no go rather than no. For me, this is a no go.
Yeah,
Right.
that's exactly why.
But
was
I want to
thinking
have this option
it's not
in
for
life
me.
to say no and to say this is a no go.
Let me try to clarify if I may.
Yes,
Yeah, sure.
I think the standard is the border here.
Yeah.
standard. The principle.
The principle is the border.
And the
Of the
values.
yes.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
If a yes goes over a principle, it's
It's a no.
definitely a no.
It's
So
a no.
there is a no.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what he's
Thank
saying.
you for
That's what I hear.
clarifying.
That's what I
Yes.
hear.
That's exactly.
Okay,
This is
perfect.
exactly what.
Yeah. So the
Okay,
yes
perfect.
within our principles.
Yes. Yes. And that's why you need to create your North Star. And your guiding principles are going to take you to your
And
North
that's your
Star.
compass, my friend. There you have the compass. The principles is our compass.
And I just want to add, we talked about here about virtues and family values.
Yeah.
And standards. So just want to point that out.
So there is a kind of principle set
Yeah.
that always needs to be met before you get to that decision.
Well, I mean, it's the guiding principles.
And
of
maybe
following
the
decision
wheel of Sagitas, the yes no,
is the guiding
is the
principles.
gateway. If that needs to go through, if it's bullshit, it doesn't even come to yes, yes, yes.
Exactly.
So that's the filter,
It has to be yes or no.
and that's the filter, principle-based filter, to kill the noise and the bullshit. Or give a clear no. And when it's a yes, yeah, of course it's a yes, and then everybody says no, you can use that for yourself.
Yes.
And then you don't need to use me, because me is we.
Yes. Just something for those who are native English speakers. Is that what is exactly the difference between principles and values? You know, our principles, our values. Is there something that is there a difference or?
There is.
What's the difference for you?
Hmm?
What's the difference for you?
So values is something that I attribute a value to, right? So whereas a principle is much more in depth.
So
Okay.
do you mind if I clarify
Sure.
what he means? Because principles is almost like a universal law.
Okay.
Values is a very personal experience.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is very important
Yeah.
because, and I think I was sharing it with Brenda upstairs, is when the principles that guide us are the ones that define us. There's a level of trust that is met ultimately really fast in a moment of affinity. So it's like Tony talks about the zone of maximization in our prime. It's not about the decisions are no longer about one person. The decision window is about yes, no, based off of the principle of what's good for the people,
Okay.
right? So that's where the filter comes in.
Yeah. Good.
And that's where the yes, no is very important.
Yeah. Okay.
Like
Thank
you're
you.
saying, like you're saying.
Ooh.
Cool.
Did that make sense?
Okay, Ross, the floor is yours.
Okay, cool. Okay. Hi everyone. First of all, thank you very much for allowing me to come here and share some of my knowledge with you today. And this is very much a test platform for me, so I really appreciate any feedback you have and information you can give me back. Very much as a bit of a background, so you know, I have ADHD and Asperger's. I never found out until I was in my nearly 40s. But when I found out, it made a lot of sense about everything in my whole life. You know, I always got told I'd never amount to anything. I didn't focus. I wasn't. I was smart, but I never applied my mind, etc. All these different things that you get taught as a young person. And as a consequence, I quite often used to make a lot of bad choices and bad decisions. And so, you know, what I'm trying to do here is I've put a lot of thoughts together from my journey in the last 20 years, and especially in the last sort of 10 years, which I now would like to also start to share with people who may have made the wrong choice, you know, maybe ended up in prison or ended up in a drug rehab center, and who could do with some support and extra motivation to be able to go and achieve what they want to do. So I've got a few slides here to share with you guys, if that's okay. Let me just present. Can you see my screen? Hang on, I need to share my screen, just bear with me a second. Sorry, just 1 second.
There's like a green button at the bottom, there should be saying share.
Yeah, it's just not allowing me to.
I made you a host, so it should be.
Yeah, I think it's because it's in my system settings. Here we go. Now can you see that?
Yeah, that's what.
Perfect. Just a bit of background about myself. So, following on what I just said, I ended up working in finance. I then got into the video games industry. My background was about, my first proper finance gig as a financial controller, I kind of got dubbed into the job. I ended up coming to join them, and I didn't realize that they had no revenue, 75 employees, and a lot of debt and cash flow issues, and basically the CFO used to lose his checks and his POs so that he could avoid not having to justify paying people. And this is back in the days of checks. These days you can't get away with that, unfortunately, in certain situations. And then, so from there on, it's all about restructuring, building businesses, bringing in business processes and streamlining things. And so those are some of the things I'd like to talk to you guys about today. Because, I call it the lost entrepreneur, because I believe that quite often as entrepreneurs, we are always looking for that piece that's missing in our puzzle, whatever puzzle we're looking at, and we're juggling all these different puzzles around in our day-to-day experience. And it's also quite often when we're looking for those pieces, those puzzles, we feel quite often lost. And very often, being an entrepreneur is a very lonely place, because we have all these different exterior noises of people saying, why is your business better than everyone else's? How are you going to achieve those revenues? How are you going to become that number one hit? Or how are you going to become that business that you're really striving for? Do you believe that your mission and your purpose, your why, all these different things, that people don't necessarily understand? And so it does become a very lonely place. And so we have to really equip ourselves with a lot of tools to be able to be in the position where we can stay strong, stay resilient, stay focused, and also to stay on the path that we're trying to achieve, and where we're trying to get to. So, I've broken it down into a number of different situations. So one of the first things I call is the temple, and that's essentially myself. How do I keep myself into a premium shape? How do I keep my mindset, my energy, my performance going? How can I keep myself motivated, focused, and hitting to the right directions? So it's a very important technique that we should always adopt, in my opinion, in terms of how do I look after myself. And that also means, I need to then set these boundaries around myself, around how I'm going to accept other people's exterior influences on me, on myself, but also to then learn the art of empowering others and delegating and allowing other people to thrive. Because very often as an entrepreneur, we will then go, actually, hang on, I have to take control, I have to be in charge of everything, it's on me, and I don't trust people. And it's about, as part of taking care of yourself and the temple, in terms of, how can I be higher performing, how can I be in a better peak state, how can I live a healthier, more restful life as well, so that I can achieve what I want to do. And then to create those boundaries around us, allowing us to then delegate and hand off certain items to people around us, so that then those people can then help us and support us. That then also obviously has the impact of improving my tempo, so that then I can continue to be stronger, faster, more focused, more dynamic, more driven to my mission. The next thing is, around sales. I think very much that there's a say yes piece, and I'm very much a yes, which is, strike those opportunities. As we navigate through the world, and we were in my breakout group earlier, we were talking about the universe and how the universe, opens, sometimes when a client cancels, it's the universe opening up that space for us to then bring in more opportunities. And having that yes mentality of an opportunity pops, boom, let's go and grab it, let's go and focus on it, run with it, see where it can go, follow it as far as you possibly can. And also at the same time, understanding that, if someone does say a no, it doesn't mean that it's a completely no, it's just a no to that one thing. So if you've got this mentality of a yes, 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 you can overcome any no. And sometimes a no is actually a yes, because maybe that was not the right thing for you. And if you've got that yes, yes mentality, you will find those opportunities. You will find out the next opportunity that's supposed to be coming for you, for your way. Then it's also about your brand. For you to be successful in terms of brand, you need to have the foundation of trust. You need to build the foundation.
Hey, Ross?
Yes?
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. This is Alicia speaking. I was just wondering if, I don't think your slides are going. And I was just wondering if maybe you hit present, and I'm not sure if you're actually on a different slide so that we can see your visual that you prepared.
Are you on the sales slide?
We're still on the presenter slide where you hit present, and if you're using multiple screens, it probably went to another, there we go. So you got it. So you're on.
Yeah, sorry about that. Apologies.
Yeah, no worries. I just wanted to, I wasn't sure if you were aware.
I appreciate that. And does that work now?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe if you stop sharing, get to the screen that you want to be on, and then re-share, it should work.
Okay. That's the one I'm not sure. Yeah, I have a habit of leaving lots of tabs opening. So can you see my screen now?
We can, and just as long as you are clicking on the next slide, because it's not actually in presentation.
And now?
No. Yeah,
hit the present button and it should do it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I did. I'm using Canvas.
Yeah, so he's hitting present, and then it's going to that next screen, and it's not sharing that, so are you using two screens?
No.
No? So we are fine on this screen as long as you're mindful of clicking the next if you're on slide 2, if you click slide 3, then we're fine, we can see it once you click the slide, but you'll have to be mindful of that.
Okay, sure, that's fine. So,
sorry.
No, thank you very much, Alicia, I appreciate that. I don't know, I can recap afterwards if anyone has any questions or anything that I missed, but this is where I was, which is in terms of the sales section. So it's about building that brand, which is the foundation of trust, and that comes very much from your mission, your purpose, what your goals are, and how you're going to try and achieve it, and what you're trying to do. I think it's also important to focus on the art of persuasion, as I call it, which is the strategic selling. So it's finding the pinch point or the problem that people have, and then coming up with a solution and presenting it to them. So then the next thing I have is the mindset. So this is a thing that I'm very much passionate about, which is unleashing your inner compass, I call it, which is essentially, I call it the CICCTI, which is clear intent, clear communication, and then trust your instinct. So my clear intent is to make a difference, and so I communicate that in terms of how I'm going to make a difference, and then I can be congruent to trusting my instinct, trusting my gut, and trusting my heart. And this allows me to then also be able to have the mindset of making the decision. So when an opportunity is presented to me, or a decision needs to be made in a business or a venture that I'm working in or helping with, I can then navigate, is it in line with my intent? does it clearly communicate what the outcome is going to be, and then how do I feel in my instinct, my gut, my heart, whichever bit of that you decide to call. I've had multiple debates about that with different people. I still call it instinct, and I believe it comes from my heart. If it feels right, then it's going to be my instinct, and I can go ahead, and then that's going to allow me to guide myself on the path to my passion, to my mission, and to where I'm trying to get to. So the other thing is also having the mindset that the journey is as much of the fun and the reward as actually getting to the destination. So it's not, so yes, I want to get from here to there, but the journey across there is also the bit that's going to be fun. So yes, I'm going to have ups and downs, and as long as my ups and downs are navigating in a positive direction, then I'm going to enjoy that journey as well, as much as when I get to that destination. And then my favorite thing is having as you can probably tell, I'm very much a fan of yes mindset, and having a yes approach to things. My yes mindset is very much that there is, if you think about it mathematically, no plus no is a yes, because negative plus negative equals positive. And so there is no such thing as a no, it's just a complicated yes. So even though someone says no, there's going to be a way to find a path there. It's just going to be a bit more of a complicated path to be able to achieve it and for you to be able to get there. So then in terms of a team, I believe very much in terms of building a high-performing, healthy team and bringing them on board as co-pilots. Very much often in an entrepreneurial world, we end up having to do everything ourselves and become a master of nothing and a jack of all trades, and we do have to be that as entrepreneurs. However, bringing on board specialists who are more clever, more intelligent than us, and not being afraid to hire them is going to really help us to build a strong team. And around that, I'm a firm believer about hiring for values and mission, because skills can be learnt or taught. So it's very much about bringing people on board who have the right mindset, aligned with your mission, aligned with your values, and that you can then become a really cohesive team working together as a group of co-pilots. So very much imagining, like as you're flying your aircraft, very much I kind of described that the entrepreneurial journey is you're building a spaceship as you're trying to land it coming back down from space, right? So because it's so fast-paced, it's so high intensity in terms of what you're trying to achieve and where you're trying to get, that you need the right people. You need the right mechanic, you need the right engineer, you need the right architect, as you're bringing that spaceship back down to Earth and you're trying to land it at the same time as you're trying to build it. So you really need to have the right people on board with the right values, with the right mindset in terms of where you're trying to get to in the mission, because you can work out all the other problems together if you've got the right team. Because a really strong team who are aligned will be able to work out any problems that come along. So then, when we think about being entrepreneurs, there's a bunch of pitfalls that we can come across, which can cause us a lot of issues, and it's very much about overcoming those and having, the right team, the right mindset, the right focus, having taken care of ourselves as a temple and created those boundaries and all that space that we can operate in, then we can try and mitigate those pitfalls. However, you will never be able to minimize those pitfalls. There's always going to be something that pops up. So then it's also then coming back to thinking that, life is a puzzle, and it's connecting the pieces and connecting those dots at the same time as embracing uncertainty. By embracing uncertainty, you can then find that opportunities will present themselves, and if you have the right mindset, you'll be able to close those opportunities with your yes mindset. So, one of the big things that we always fall into as entrepreneurs, in my belief, is that we have this seen and unseen fear, the understanding and overcoming of barriers. And what I mean about that is daily we are presented with barriers. Daily we are presented with people who see us and people who don't see us. And sometimes the people who see us are not always in the same court as us. They just see us as entrepreneurs as an opportunity for their own personal maximization. And then there's other people who don't see you, who actually would be in your corner and fighting your side for you. So it's very much about, understanding those barriers and overcoming them and aligning yourself with those people. The biggest thing, certainly from my side, is very much the psychology of fear-based decisions. Multiple times, when someone cancels on you or your cash flow is not that great and you're thinking, gosh, how am I going to get through to the next month? You quite often have this pitfall as an entrepreneur to make a rash decision or to panic or to get into the fear headspace. And it's about how can I get myself back out of being in that pitfall of being scared or having a fear and going, no, hang on, let me take myself back. Let me take myself back to my mindset. Let me focus on my tempo. Let me bring my team on board. This is where we are. How can we overcome this? Let's find the solution. And with that yes mindset, you will find that solution. And so very much it's about being aware of these different pitfalls as you're going through your day-to-day things or your weekly, monthly side of things to work out how to deal with that. So then, this is one of my favorite things that I learned way back when in my accounting days. As I said before, when I was in this video games company that had no cash, mass amounts of debt, 80 people on the payroll. We then turned that around and we exited it within 4 years with 440 employees and over $9 million in net profit for a $70 million exit. And the big thing that we focused on there was revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash flow is king. We as accountants, we can easily make up revenue, we can easily artificially create profit by putting things on the balance sheet to a later date, etc. But what really keeps a business going is the cash flow. So it's very much about, I imagine, a black box. If I put a penny into the black box and I crank the handle, how many pennies come out the other side? Right? And then when that metric is starting to work, then I can put more pennies into the black box, crank the handle, and get even more coming out. And it's very much about, as entrepreneurs, especially as you're growing your businesses and as you're focusing in terms of taking your businesses to the next level and where you want to get to, forget the revenue and the profit side of things. What is my cash? What is my cash expenditure? What is my cash in? What is my net cash flow? How much free cash am I creating that I can then reinvest into new projects, into new items? So it's very much about, becoming very focused into that. And, as business owners and as we talk to investors and so forth, a lot of people talk about, SWOT. What are your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats? And so one of the things that I came across during my journey, which I think is absolutely fantastic, is forget SWOT and let's focus on strengths, weaknesses, and trends, because opportunities and threats essentially become a trend. So if there's an opportunity, it's going to become a trend. If there's a threat, there's a trend to be made by overcoming that threat. So focus very much on what are my strengths, what are the weaknesses that I have, so I can always have that in the back of my mind so that we're always thinking about what we're doing well, what we're not doing so well. And then what's the trend? Where is, essentially my market, my economy going, and how can I benefit using my strengths and improving my weaknesses to be able to really tackle that trend and to nail it, which is going to give me that massive business growth. Understanding and overcoming barriers, roadblocks. So, often we will be presented with these different roadblocks. A lot of you, if you've been talking to investors at some point, you start talking to an investor and they're like, yes, I love your business. When you get to a $1 million annual recurring revenue, then come and talk to me again. And then you go and talk to them and it's like, no, come back and talk to me when it's 3 million. There are constantly these barriers and these roadblocks that are appearing, especially in the finance world and in terms of cash flow. And it's very much about understanding them and working out how to overcome them. So then, the other thing that I wanted to put out here is the entrepreneur within instinct. So all of us became entrepreneurs, or people who have become entrepreneurs, or people who want to become entrepreneurs. You have this natural inherent instinct inside of you to create something. You're hungry to fuel the fire of your ambition, right? You've got this idea, you've got this mission, you've got this plan, you've got this vision, and you got this drive to go and make it happen. And so it's about that hunger and harnessing that hunger from within you and letting it come out and really allowing that to be able to position you and to help you to drive forward to where you want to get to. And then this is one of my favorite ones. You know, everyone talks about ADHD, and a lot of people can decide about, you know, we shouldn't label ourselves. And so I decided that actually ADHD is nothing what the doctors say. It's, oh, I'm always doing and I'm highly driven. And that is the case. It's like even when I'm sitting in a coffee shop, I'm still doing because I'm watching everyone that's going on, and highly driven to, you know, achieve and to make things happen. Then it's also very much about, as an entrepreneur, we have to understand and to accept that weaving the tapestry of personal and business life becomes very much interconnected. You know, when as entrepreneurs, we generally never are not thinking about our business or what we're trying to do, even in our personal life and business life. And sometimes, you know, it's nice to try and separate it, but sometimes we just need to accept that it's very interconnected and we should just allow it to happen and not to worry too much, and to really appreciate ourselves as entrepreneurs and having that instinct inside us, which is really, you know, because we are very ambitious and that we're always highly driven to achieve what we're ambitious about. So it's also about building the resilience so that we can weather those storms of the entrepreneurial journey. And all these different things that I was talking about, I believe very much give us a lot of that. And then this is my favorite part, and this is the bit I wanted to share with you guys. And you know, I'm very happy to share all this with you afterwards and answer any questions around it. But I kind of, through various different learnings, came across the what I call the BPM, which is basically aligning your journey, which is essentially your BHAG. I don't know if anyone really knows the term BHAG here, but just so you understand, the BHAG is essentially your big, hairy, audacious goal, or in slang, big, hairy ass goal, which is my favorite one. And then, you know, what is your objectives to be able to achieve the BHAG and the KPIs that you can monitor to make sure you're on those objectives. And then I've kind of renamed it as BHAG, purpose and mission. And this basically, you know, coming back to Tony's learnings, you know, about where focus goes, energy flows. So I swapped out objectives with focus, and basically my BHAG is my purpose, and also that then my KPIs are actually my energy. And this is very much because if I have my focus, my energy is going to tell me if I'm hitting the right keynotes, and vice versa, my energy is going to help me hit my focus. So I see this as a very interconnected side of things. And so, you know, based on that, I kind of came across and implemented this system, which I wanted to share with you, which is essentially, you know, you can do this on a, you know, essentially you're supposed to work on a BHAG as a 10-year thing. I prefer to make it a 3 to 6 month thing because I'm highly driven and I'm always doing. So I'm very ambitious, and so I use these boards as a way to be able to make sure that I am on track. And you can have this from anything from even your own personal side of things. So, you know, one of my personal objectives for this next 6 months is, because I neglected it for a few months up to Christmas and the beginning of this year, is to develop a healthy temple. So that is my BHAG. So that's my big, hairy, audacious goal for the next 3 to 6 months, is to develop a healthy temple. And for that, I've identified 4 focus items or objectives that I need to work on. The first one is I want to have a flow routine, which is about movement, stretching, etc. I want to be focused onto my nutrition plan. I want to be focused on my fitness routine, and I want to be working on my spiritual path, because I've got into different things from astrology and things like that, and I want to learn more about it. And so how do I know if I am on track with those focus items? Is by tracking my energy and essentially my KPIs. So how many days in a week have I been on my routine? That's one of my big KPIs. My second one is I want to be hitting a 10,000 daily average step count on a year basis. You know, what am I at? And then my third one is the number of hours that I'm sleeping. I struggle with sleep routine, and obviously then that throws everything out of purpose. So essentially I sit myself down every Monday morning and I look at this and I track my last week's progress, and I don't have it here, but I then create an action list of what am I going to do next week. And essentially you can apply the traffic light system here, where, for example, maybe this week this is going well, so I would then highlight this as a green, and so I can track this on a week by week basis, and I can have this as a green, and then maybe this is a red because last week I had 2 McDonald's or what have you, so it's on a red, so I need to get back onto my nutrition path. Maybe my fitness was pretty good, because actually my fitness routine is a green, because last week, I did 5 days worth of activity out of 7. My steps are pretty much okay, so maybe I would color that an amber or a yellow. And my sleep hours I didn't track, because I don't have a way of tracking it right now. So this is a simple process that I use to be able to make sure that I am every week looking at my previous week's traction, remembering in line where I want to get to and what my mission is in terms of where I'm trying to get to in that period of time. It can be 3, 6 months, 12 months, whatever you decide. And then what are the 4 key pillars to be able to achieve that? What are my focus areas and my KPIs? And I monitor this every week. And the great thing about this is, when I then come back to my kind of professional side, my big purpose is to operate with Magical Bliss in council, which is, with people who I'm collaborating with. One of my big focuses is my temple, which is, then I split the temple out into its own board, which has its own KPIs and objectives. And so then my other one is teaching, the other one is being an investor, the other one is making my home, because I've been a nomad for a while and I'm kind of feeling like maybe I need a base somewhere now. So, and then obviously, right now I'm very heavily invested, so one of my big focuses is my free cash flow. I'm committed to spending X amount in a period of time. How close am I tracking to that? And I monitor that every week so that I know, and then I can make those decisions for my big objective for this week is X, Y, and Z, because this is the area that's most on fire. So if this is most on fire, how am I going to be able to generate cash flow to be able to bring that back into the green? It's the same thing as, as my because of all the stuff I'm trying to achieve, one of my big KPIs, energies on my level is how many days of energy have I had? How many days have I got out of bed, gone to the gym, got really into my peak state, into my performance, and really nailed stuff? How many of my projects have been accomplished? I've got 5 going on at the moment in different areas. And so the thing that's really interesting about this is you can apply this to your business. So this could be I could call this my strategy board. So I can have my CFO, my CMO, my COO joining me on this board. We would then have, maybe this would be, maybe we want to become number one water bottle company in the world, right? And so how do I achieve that? I've got to become number one in the most biggest markets, right? North America, EMEA, etc. So then I can then have someone accountable for that one box of the focus of their objectives, with their goal, which is essentially this goal comes down into here. So all these goals make up to here, but on the next board, this goal then comes up here, and we'll have the different items to make it up and the KPIs. And what this allows me to do now, and this is a very useful thing when you think about when you grow your business, and you grow your business to a level where you have a C-suite, you may have 6 or 7 people reporting into you, and you can only scale your business by having a certain level of visibility, allowing them to have accountability and responsibility to be able to deliver up. And so I want to be having an oversight. And so if I'm an investor, I may have one of these boards for 10 different businesses, or 7 businesses. Now I can work 1 day a week on each business. I don't have to be stuck in every business every day, because I have a CEO who's accountable for this whole board, and this business may be, become the number one hemp food business in the world, right? And so then there's a number of objectives here. So I can meet with that CEO and I can say, right, how was last week going on? Okay, well, this isn't so good, this is going well, this is not so good. And all I need is that 1 hour where it's like, okay, so what's the most on fire? The most on fire is we don't have a production facility, right? Or the KPI is showing that we're behind in terms of monthly sales. Okay, so now we can take the action of how are we going to make that green for next week, or how are we going to turn it from red into a yellow or an orange and into a green ultimately, because that's where we want to be heading. And and from there you can then say, okay, so these are the main action points, and this is what we're going to do. Let's come up with a pre-sales campaign, let's come up with a discounting campaign to be able to generate those sales, that volume of metrics, so that we can get back on track, so we can get back on target, because that energy is going to then follow up into our focus, and our focus is going to follow up into our energy, because we're focused on the sales side of things. And the great thing about that is when you have the other tab with all the actions, you can then monitor. So you can then see if your sales manager is talking bullshit, or your marketing manager is not paying attention to their numbers and their KPIs, because you can see that now we're in week 4 and you've been saying the same thing for 4 weeks. This has been marked red. This action that you've had, you have not taken any action, or you haven't closed it, and every time we meet, there's an issue. So now I can then identify where the problem is within my team, within the group of people, or maybe it's not the person, maybe it's a software that's missing, maybe it's we're not hitting the right brand messaging, or the story, or people aren't bought into our products, or our products don't taste so good. Whatever it is, because we've seen it happening consistently week after week after week, we can then start to make even more corrections, more adjustments, to then be able to really nail and improve in terms of getting to where we want to get to. And again, this is all why, rather than getting into a huge amount of details, this for me is a very nice way that I've applied in businesses for the last 7 or 8 years, and kind of developed from various different learnings and reading lots of different business books and applying it in different ways, so that then I can really essentially become an owner rather than an operator, but still have a level of visibility in the business and understand what's going on, as well as understanding where the pain points are and how we're not being able to progress, and what we can do to then change it. And then this allows me to be very hands-on on the business, allowing the business to then also have responsibility, accountability, and also the motivation to go ahead and do these things. So I wanted to show you this. I'm very happy to share these slides with you guys afterwards, and also to answer any questions in terms of how I can help you to apply this to your business, or for you to, when I send it around probably at the end of the week, because it needs a bit more work, there'll be a guideline about how you can apply this. And another way that's really exciting is when you can get a team together and you go, right, how are we going to crush this for the next 3 to 6 months? And you can do all these post-it note exercises, and then you can then kind of work out what your main, if you kind of extract yourself, you can then see what is the overarching topic that's the most important. That then probably becomes your BHAG, and then you can work out the most important post-it notes that fit into that would be each one of your objectives, or maybe a KPI, or maybe you then create your KPIs based on those main objectives, and it becomes a very interactive way to then get your team to also be bought in to what you're trying to do, rather than, as an entrepreneur, we very much have a habit of dictating what we want them to do, which then doesn't allow people to have the autonomy and the responsibility and to get fully engaged in it. So then, this is another thing that I quite like, which is how not to get lost as an entrepreneur. Well, sorry for swearing, but I swear a lot. Fuck the doubters, and also to then understand that we are unique and that we are all great and fantastic. Generally, entrepreneurs are great and fantastic, and that we should just embrace the fake it mentality. It's great as well, when you look at some of the great quotes, I love this one with Steve Jobs, where he says the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking and don't settle. And that's one of the great things that we do as entrepreneurs. And when you think about Nelson Mandela, where he says, the greatest glory in living lives is not never failing, but it is rising every time you fail. And this is a very important thing for us as entrepreneurs. We rise, we fail, we rise, we fail. And my whole life has been rising and failing. And that's why, I'm very excited to be an entrepreneur and enjoy being an entrepreneur. And then, just go through, believe, and be determined, be passionate, be strong about, where your mission is and where you want to get to. So, this is all very much what I call a MAX system, which is mastering, actualizing, and exponential, which is if you learn and you master it, you actualize, which is implement it, you're just going to see exponential returns and growth. Whether it's in your business, whether it's in your personal life, whether it's in your charitable work, or whatever you want to do. And for me, it's not just a theoretical framework, it's actually a very practical guide for us to be able to achieve in the various different areas of our lives. And by just simplifying it into that one board that every week religiously I check in with, and I check my actions, account for my actions with my team or on my own, however you want to do it, I believe that you can create a life of purpose, passion, fulfillment by mastering the inner world and also actualizing the potential and exponentially growing our impact. And I'm very focused as entrepreneurs that we should focus very much, especially in these days, in terms of how we can make an impact and how my business, how my way can make an impact to both the people or the planet in terms of an improvement. And so that's, for me, that's the end of my presentation. I'll share the content with you guys very happily. And I think we might have a few minutes for questions if you guys are open for questions. Or if you want me to recap on anything, very happy to.
I would actually like some more examples. You gave one about where you went into a company and they had 18 employees and no profit, and then 4 years later you had a lot more, 100 employees, and I can't remember how much profit, and that was really great. But you gave us, I love this framework that you've given us, but it would help it to come alive to me a little bit more if there are a few more examples of how you could pick anything, just kind of put it in action, the results you got.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I mean, one of the best ways. That's why I also like to do these frameworks on a shorter time frame rather than a longer time frame, because it's very much about. I believe businesses are an iterative process, and they're essentially a live animal. So you know, one of the things was right at the beginning, you know, when we were in this situation, it was very much, you know, the top priority was to become cash flow positive, right? And so, you know, the first thing was, how do we become cash flow positive? Well, you know, there was a big KPI that we had, which we knew that out of the 75 employees, for us to be able to be, well, it's actually, first one was actually cash flow break even, because it was hard to get there. So we knew that if, for example, 75 employees, and we needed to have 50 employees paid for, right, for us to be in a break-even position, that was the KPI here that we would have there. That in actual fact, we actually even had daily stand-ups, because we were so focused on, you know, we're talking to all these different people to sell these employees as a contract. You know, we would have a 10-minute daily stand-up of, right, you know, how did that conversation go yesterday? Did we close? Where is the next level on the contract? You know, where do they need to see the schedule, right? And, you know, we would be having then on the KPI that we'd be reviewing every week is, you know, where we need to get to 50, we're at 30 out of 50. Next week, maybe 35 out of 50, then 45 out of 50, then 50 out of 50, right? It took a lot longer than weeks, but just as an example. And so, you know, because if that number goes up, then you can give yourself a good pat on the back. Come on guys, get the team motivated, let's keep focused, we're on the right track here. You know, we're going to make this come out the hole here. And also, for example, you know, and then if we lost someone, then we'd be like, right, okay, we've lost 2 people on the project because the project got canned or whatever. How can we? You're right. What other opportunities? What other leads do we have? And by you focusing on this every week and having the daily stand-up that goes alongside it, you're working live with the business, not just waiting for your accountant to then give you a balance sheet or your P&L at the end of the month, and you're like, oh shit, and right. So it's very much about, you can adapt this to your business in the different situations, but those were some of the situations that we adapted in those positions.
Okay, thank you. And you know what, and also what I'm hearing is energy, you know. Like, because when you are hands-on with it, it's almost like you're molding clay, but you have your framework for it, so you're not wasting energy. You're very focused on where you put your energy. Yeah.
Exactly, because this is the other thing is, you know, when people start to talk about KPIs, you could then end up with a massive list of KPIs, you know, and then you spend time creating the KPIs, whereas you want time to be able to work out what the KPI is saying, what course of action can I take, how am I going to avoid it, how am I going to improve it, right? So you want to have the time to focus on decision, problem solving, rather than calculating or computating. And this framework very much simplifies so that you're, as you said, laser focused on the main objectives, the main KPIs that are going to fuel my business and drive it forwards. And this could be a business, and then you can have a board per team. So you can have an HR board, you can have a sales team board, right? A finance board. You know, an HR might be, we have to hire for the most values and talent, right? And then it's like, you know, how many you might have unwanted retention as a KPI, right? People who have left that you didn't want to leave.
Okay, great. Yeah, I appreciate the elegance of this. By breaking it out like that, it actually makes it much clearer and therefore much more simple. So, yeah, thank you.
No worries.
How do you, if you have, like what you said, multiple boards where you're the CEO and you have, you know, for like my business is is similar, like the financials and the cash flow and then the HR and the clinical and, you know, onboarding and trainings, and you have all of these. How do you, as, do you have like a larger board that kind of helps you hone in on all the other department boards? Like with the ADHD in mind?
Yeah. Simple answer is no, because then you're overcomplicating the business, right? So it's very much about, you know, if you have a business with multiple teams, you probably get your leadership team together, right? And together you would do like a post-it note exercise. What's the most important right now, right? We want to become number 1X in 10 years, right? We're here right now. You know, think about your massive action plan from Tony, right? Kind of thing. So this is just a way of, okay, so I want to get from here to here to here to here to here, and all of those meetings that you'll have with your leadership team, then you would create the boards. So maybe, you know, your big goal for this quarter, this half year is you're on a recruitment drive, right? So that's going to be your strategy board, right? You'd have a strategy board, then an HR board, a finance board, a sales board, who then maybe feed into here, you know. And quite often I've worked with leadership teams where people actually get a bit upset because they didn't make number 4 key objectives, but that's because maybe your area is not the biggest priority for the business growth right now, but next quarter or next half year it may be. So it's about getting that leadership team together and going, you know, this is where we want to get to. How do we get there? What's the biggest thing? Okay, that's the biggest thing. So that goes on my strategy board. And then I need my finance team to be hitting this, which is like maybe one of my focuses, and my HR team and my sales team and my tech team. And then that then becomes their main purpose. And then they would have their 4 objectives that roll up to it. So you kind of, you know, it's kind of like a pyramid, right? So this is the main strategic goal, then this is the finance, then this is the HR, then this is the sales, then this is the tech, but it all rolls up into one.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then it also helps me because I can meet my HR director once a week, I can meet my sales director once a week, you know, and then I can, you know, really be on top, right? So this is the big priority for us, for our team this week, your team this week, but.
Yeah, I love doing it weekly too, so you can tweak and adjust and measure.
Exactly. And this is one of the things, you know, is like, especially in today's day and age, our businesses are living and breathing, right? So if we wait to the quarter end to then have a board meeting to work out what happened in the last quarter, you know, we could be dead in the water, you know, so, yeah.
Ross, if I could, just, this is my logic thinking, is you're at 3 different levels here. So what you're offering here is a macro focus, and then it's a drill down to micro focus within departments. Then if you could have, as Alicia says, a weekly thing, you could say out of our macro focus, where is our trend being developed? And you create specific questions out of the macro focus that have to be answered each week. And then you have a micro focus per department. And then you have a timing. So once we achieve this out of the micro focus, that feeds the macro focus. And then you can see a trend and a pattern developing. And if there's any questions that would arrive, you would click on that area and it would create a green light or a red light. As long as we achieve these objectives out of the micro, then the macro would be fed. And if it doesn't, then you have a focus module that says these are the questions where we are as to how we get to this next point, if that would help.
Yeah, so usually what you would have is you would then have here another sheet which is called actions, right? and you would then have, for example, this was action for for this week ending, which was the 17th of the 2, right? And then you would have, Russ is going to be doing X, Y, and Z. Alicia is going to be doing X, Y, and Z. Roxy this, and Lane that, right? And so then next week when you meet, it's like, how did that go, right? And that's your micro focus. Sorry, I didn't bring it into this here, but I'll share that when I share the slides for you guys to then apply to your businesses later. But yes, exactly, and that's why you have the macro focus, but you keep it laser focused, right? And then you have the micro focus, which is your action, essentially your task list. And then you can see if that's going well, because if, for example, Alicia turns up every week for the 8 weeks saying, sorry, I didn't get it quite finished, when she said it was going to take her 2 weeks, then the team will hold each other accountable, right? It'd be like, come on, you said you were going to deliver this 4 weeks ago, what's going on? How can we help you? What's the blocker? What do we need to unlock?
You could even enter into this a rewards module that would incentivize or inspire people to bring, if you realize your fear-based decisions can be rewarded by action, so you reward action, period. And therefore, if you get a green light out of what you had, then you get, gamify it and get points and say, hey, this is fun. We actually, you took action and maybe you hit red or green, but that action should be rewarded at a certain level, and green would be rewarded at a higher level. So you actually create fun within the team.
Yes, exactly. And what we would do is every week you would see these colored, and when one was achieved, you'd have a tick on it. So you want to get to the end of the quarter with as many ticks as possible, right? Obviously there is a gamification to it, and then obviously it would feed into your company reward system. You can even bring it into your company appraisal system, because you could then say, it helps you identify if your sales manager is just bullshitting the whole time and isn't actually delivering. You can go, well, hang on a minute, I can hold you accountable. In the last quarter, you were going to promise to deliver X, Y, and Z, and you never did. Now we need to have a proper conversation here, or you were going to deliver this and you over-delivered, and because of that, we've had the free cash flow of the business grow by X. So now I'm going to give, maybe my reward system is, I have a cash objective, and if we hit that cash objective, I'm going to give 10% of it to the whole team, right? So then that's how you can also then bring in your reward systems. Anyone have any more questions or anything you'd like to talk a bit more about?
Thank you. I think this makes a lot of sense, and I'll definitely take some aspects of it to my business. And Marianne, I think that his last part on the sales was definitely something for you to consider, so you have that visual, and it's not an opinion, it's fact.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Gotta jump.
Thank you. Yes.
It's Daniela speaking. I just want totally amazing presentation. Thank you so much. And as I discovered that I also have probably ADHD my whole life, and I didn't realize it. So I think this is very helpful for me too, because especially the aspect about the visual is kind of make it visual. This is something that I actually realized that I need, and so that's really great. Thank you so much. what I wanted to add, because in the beginning you asked for every input or whatever.
Yeah.
Totally different thing, but the color of your font that you have on your slides is very difficult to read. So I don't know how the others feel that, but I just wanted to give you this feedback. Looking at the screen, sometimes, especially if there's a lot on one slide and the font gets smaller, it's difficult to read.
Of course, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm a very visual person here, but trying to get it out on paper is very hard for me sometimes.
I'm absolutely the same, so, which is why I thought, okay, I tell you. And I mean, you always look at your own things in a different way, and you see it differently. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm definitely going to try that too. I think it's, I do a lot with mind maps, and I think it can go very well also with a kind of a mind map structure. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone have any more questions? There's only a few of us left. Okay. Right. Well, if not, thank you very much, everyone, and I'll just close the meeting then, and hopefully see you guys again soon. Bye.
Thanks again, and bye.
Bye.
Recording stopped.